How's everybody doing? Where's everybody calling in from? We can see, the chat popping in. And we'll get kicking off in about 2 minutes. We'll let, people filter in for the next 2 minutes and then we'll kick it off. So if you, again, want to go grab a cup of coffee or, some kind of caffeinated beverage, go for it. We'll get going in about 2 minutes.
Josh representing Florida. I'm in Orlando.
There you go. What part of Florida? I lived in Tampa for a while.
He's in Tampa.
Oh, there you go.
In Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Is that anywhere near like Pittsburgh?
I have a friend that lives in Lidditz, I believe it's called. Yeah, Lidditz. No, Philly.
Okay, I drove through Philly when I drove to New York. So it's really close to New Jersey. I had no idea how close Philadelphia was to New York City. No idea until I drove. I'm like, oh wow, this is like an hour away from the city. That's crazy.
True Method's headquartered in down in Philly, and got to go to Geno's and the place across the way. I don't remember their name because Geno's was much better. Cheesesteaks, baby.
I just saw LA. Well, I literally 2 weeks ago moved to the Silicon Valley area. So I'm representing California myself, getting used to the time zone change. But, that's okay. Milwaukee, there we go. Okay, people from all over. I like it.
We'll get going. Pennsylvania mushrooms. Is that NSFW?
I don't know. I actually haven't heard of that one.
Not safe for work.
New Jersey, there we go. Yep, I was up in Red Bank.
Carol got in with her Firefly note taker.
Hey.
She missed one.
Hey, I normally deny.
Safe. Oh, another
Colorado.
PA. Oh, Deerfield Beach, Florida, Miami. Oh, we're picking up our numbers.
Hey, I went to school in Douglasville, Georgia. I went to college at the University of West Georgia and got my master's in Jacksonville, Alabama. So I see one South person here. That's good.
Victoria, British Columbia, Ireland.
There we go. Yep, JSU.
Oh, hey, Stephen. I just talked to Stephen right before this.
Oh, Philippines, there we go. Dahlonega, yep. See, we're getting people everywhere.
I want to hear how you pronounce that one in Georgia.
Dahlonega?
Is that how it's pronounced?
I think.
Got to say it like you're in Georgia. Dahlonega. Okay.
Listen, it took me a while to get rid of my southern twang and the y'all. Okay. But I might still have it from time to time.
Brandon's got his hand up.
We're going to get going in, Brazil. Cool. In about 1 minute. All right. So everybody good?
Brandon has his hand up. Can he chat?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Go ahead. Chat. You can't speak, I don't think, but you can put it in the chat or the Q&A. Go right ahead and we'll get to it. Okay. This is being recorded for everybody's awareness. And as soon as this ends, the recording will be sent to you automatically, right? We know how busy MSPs are, so we didn't want you to have to wait. And we all, we also know that if you register, something pops up, fire drill, whatever. Sometimes you just can't make it. But if you do register, you automatically get the recording as well, right? So just know for future sessions with us, that is automatic as well. So I just want to say hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Rachel Chipman. I have worked with a lot of MSP vendors and an MSSP and a pretty big MSP over the past decade. So I'm pretty familiar with the space, have a lot of, love for the MSP community. So I'm excited to represent MSP bots because we have a lot of cool AI things coming, but that's not for this webinar. I'll keep my mouth shut on the cool things that we're going to be launching soon until the time comes. That's a little bit about me. And with me is Joe Turso. Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I love that because it's my favorite subject. So I have been in technology literally 40 years this year. and what evolved to be the MSP space, mid 90s. So I have a good 30 years with the last 25 in operations in either service leadership, building service departments, building proactive departments, helping owners be owners. And then I became an MSP consultant. So I would just consult with MSPs to build their operations. And I've done that since 2020. Yes.
Excellent.
So that's my
So
story. I'm sticking to it.
I like the story, Joe. So, I was working on this pretty intense, service delivery playbook, right? And Joe and I connected and we were just chatting and, we were very aligned in our thinking, right? In our processes and procedures and kind of, what I was trying to create. And so we were like, hey, we should make a masterclass series out of this, right? A lot of time, energy, and effort went into this. And so that's why we're here today, right? This is session one of a 3-session series. And it was built specifically, for MSPs that are focused on growth, whether you're a smaller MSP, large MSP, right? If you have that growth mindset, right? What we're going to be talking about today is for you, right? And I think that this is important to talk about, right? Because we can see that the MSP industry is really at this critical pivoting point right now, right, Joe? Like, what I can tell is that clients expect faster responses, higher quality outcomes, more proactive, support, not just, kind of reactive ticket handling, right? But on the flip side of that, labor costs are at an all-time high, right?
Yeah.
Technician availability is down. And, we're trying to scale, right? Without breaking the teams or the margins. Like, are you seeing the same things as I'm seeing, Joe?
Um, yes, I see it all the time. Is MSPs are trying to keep a labor pool, but the labor pool for a long time went into cybersecurity, right? So we
Mhm.
weren't getting the techs, we weren't growing the people, and labor costs are just up. So most people say, I hope this works out, or I hope this is going to happen, and I just know hope's not a plan, right?
Hey, that's a quote that you have that we're going to talk about later. Hope is not a plan. And that's a theme that I want to keep throughout this, right? Is what we're going to give you is some actionable items, right, at the end of this, so that, to Joe's point, you actually have a plan,
Mhm.
which is good, right? Yep, a goal without a plan is just a wish, Jeff. I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, right? And so, right, the truth of the matter is, right, you can't fix those deep problems with these surface level metrics, right? You can't just look at, maybe ticket counts, CSA or CSAT, sorry. You have to actually dig in, right? So, Joe, again, you said it just before here. Hope is not the plan, right? So, can you kind of elaborate on how, we can fix some of these problems?
Absolutely. So this series is about something bigger, right? It's about building what we call an intelligent service delivery operations. We want systems that streamline the service desk, right? Build real accountability, but without micromanagement. Nobody enjoys that constant micromanagement. And you want to really help technicians understand when they pull the lever, when they do something, when they hit a success mark or don't, how does that impact profit? They need to see clearly, this is why transparency is important, how what I do impacts the company. I'm not just a cog in the wheel, right? I'm turning and I'm making stuff happen. And you need to be able to lay a foundation for automation, for business intelligence, for AI, so they actually work, not just create a report or have technology for the sake of technology. We want to build things that solve problems and achieve business goals.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Solving problems, which is why we sat and we thought about it, right? And we're like, okay, right, at the core of this masterclass, right? And, the playbook that we created that you'll get at the end of the series, which is pretty in depth, right? Is the 7 drivers of a scalable service delivery, backbone, right? And what are those 7 things, right? Client experience and retention, service delivery and SLA performance, right? Operational efficiency and technician performance, your profitability and agreement health, escalations and process maturity, proactive support and prevention. And this is one that not a lot of vendors touch on, but MSPs need to be talking about, right? And so we're here to kind of help that too, is your team health and internal communication, right? It's not just about systems, the software that you're using, right? Integrations between those software systems. That's all, part of it. But what needs to be talked about more is your team health and internal communication. And that's just my take. Joe, what about yours?
So it's interesting because I think last week I did one of my TikTok videos that wasn't a dad joke on mental health, right? The importance of in IT taking breaks, walking outside, seeing green. Your team is your asset. It's the only thing that you have. In an MSP, we don't build houses, we don't make widgets, right? Our whole shtick is selling fractional labor. So if you don't take care of that, it'll go away. It's one thing I say a lot is if I went away, my company would still run, right? If my team went away, I would have nothing. So I am there to support them to make them successful, like I want them to support the clients to make the clients successful. And that
Right.
takes healthy, and that takes transparency, and that takes culture, and not
And
on
that's
paper.
and that's something that you and I were kind of talking about as some of you guys were filtering in. So some of you might have heard Joe and I's conversation, before we kicked the webinar off, right? Um, but a key to success. Joe and I are both very passionate about the MSP industry, right? We know a lot of people that own MSPs, work in MSPs, and they're like a family, right? They care about one another. They want, each other to be successful, and, the wins and the losses all come as like a unit, right? Within, the community and within the company. And, we were just talking about, hey, we love what we do. It's very transparent when we're talking to people that we believe in what we're talking about, right? We're not selling anything because we actually believe it, right? And that is very transparent when you're talking to people, right? They know, right, when someone's passionate and they enjoy what they're doing and they believe in what they're doing. So building that culture, right, internally will just actually help you externally, right? Because when your team is happy and healthy, that's very easily identifiable when they are doing maybe their QBRs with, the clients, or, doing support tickets and those types of things, right? It comes off very easily that way. And, in our session today, obviously, we're going to start with the foundation, and that is metrics, right? And that's why this session is called Why Your Metrics Are Lying to You. Because frankly, most MSPs are looking at the data, right? They might even have the right things set up, right? But are they looking at those in isolation? Or are they, really identifying what the story is telling them based on several, data sets, right? So, Joe, can you kind of help break the mindset and kind of get into, some of your thoughts around this?
If we talk about metrics, the people mistake a metric for a KPI,
Yeah.
right? A metric is one thing that's going to tell you to dive in. Metrics should measure what matter and then manage to break some thresholds. I don't care about metrics unless someone needs help. I care about KPIs, right? Results oriented management.
Agreed. And I just want to let everybody know that's on. This isn't a one-way webinar where, Joe and I are just conversationally speaking to each other. I mean, that's what we're doing. But we do want you to drop in your questions within the chat, because if we see something um, that we should talk about while we're, in midst of this conversation, we'll bring it up immediately, right? If not, we'll get it at the end. But feel free to drop your questions into those chats, right? Because we want this to be as interactive as possible, right? We have your time. Let's answer your questions if we can, right? In due time. So, as you were mentioning, right, the problem with MSP metrics today is that a lot of the dashboards track the same kind of things, right? Like I think I mentioned before, ticket counts, handle time, SLA compliance, CSAT. But it's not that any of those are wrong, but they're kind of telling an incomplete story, if that makes sense, right? I know, Joe, you and I talked, and you said you've seen this firsthand. What is the risk when MSPs rely too much on these kind of industry standard numbers?
Well, most service managers or even owners that we're talking about stick to what they know, right? The CSATs, the SLAs, the ticket velocity, because they have the mindset, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But these are all lagging indicators. Something has already happened to look at this. It's not that it's not broke, but it's not evolving with the industry. By the time your CSAT is down, right, it's already got damage. You've already had the impact. You now have an at-risk client. By the time an SLA is missed, your client's already frustrated. The damage is already done again. What happens is when your MSP starts chasing numbers that don't connect the business to outcomes, and that's the challenge, right? That's the when you don't align your metrics to these 7 key drivers, you just don't get the outcome you want. You could hit your SLA and have a client leave, right? You can focus on ticket close rates, and then you have tech burnout. It all builds up quietly.
And something that I just thought of, right? That kind of aligns to what we were saying too, right? If we're looking at, ticket close rates and, just pushing our tech to close, right? What silently could be happening is tech burnout, right? Because it's building up quickly, right? So we really need to look at the core problem, and that is that most MSPs can confuse activity with actual insights, meaning, we've got these dashboards, they all look healthy, right? But underneath those, surface level metrics, right, there can be some chaoticness, churn risk, or margin leakage happening. And I think with the tight margins that we're seeing, with customers expecting more, paying less, right, it's something that we have to hyper focus on, because we already know MSP margins can be pretty low. We don't need them to be any lower, and we can't afford to lose customers, right? So that's why we're here today, right? To kind of help talk about not just how to look at the dashboards, but how to measure the right things, right? Some metrics that can actually help you predict outcomes and not just report on them, to Joe's point, like in a lagged way, right? Um, so with that, right, this is
Can I
where,
answer Tommy's question real quick?
oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. So again, when you present data to your techs in real time, that's when you're setting them up for success. It says at the end of the day, these numbers need to be this. While you can see those individuals, most dashboard systems will allow you to do a fixed screen. I know MSP bots, we set up a standard dashboard by role, and everyone's looking at the same metrics, but when they log in, it takes their login and lets them only see their data. So it's the same dashboard, but when you log in, it just uses that login to show it. And they see it in real time, right? Well, how many hours have I billed? What's my average time per ticket?
That's kind of cool, Joe.
Mhm.
That's
That's
actually pretty
key,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
Transparency and data. Everyone needs to know what success looks like, even your service manager, right? What's my profitability? Can I afford to add more people? Am I taking too long? Where's that problem at?
Exactly. And, it's kind of where the 7 drivers of scalable service delivery comes in, right? It's not just about those list of metrics. It's really the framework for how to actually run the service organization that can scale without burning your team out or, having bleeding margins, right? And again, just for everybody to kind of be aware of the 7 drivers, I'll say it again because I think it's important, right? It's the client experience and retention, service delivery and SLA performance, operational efficiency and technician performance, right? Profitability and agreement health, escalations and process maturity, proactive support and prevention, and your team health and internal communication, right? Um, so I kind of want to break these down, right? Joe, you kind of already mentioned the leading indicators versus lagging. We talked about lagging. Um, but let's kind of talk about what the leading indicators are and kind of what we need to look out for.
I'm dying to answer these questions, but I can wait. Yeah, because when you're dealing with leading indicators, you want to make they all interact, right? One's dependent on the other. You can't impact one without seeing it on the other side. For example, and this is going to go to one of the questions that were hit. You can have great SLI compliance, but have tech utilization at 95%, right?
Right.
You're going to have burnout. You're setting your team up for failure. And remember, people leave because of poor management and toxic environments. If they felt valued, if they felt heard, right? And it's not let me buy pizza and have ice cream socials. It's clarity, transparency, and purpose. Or maybe you have high CSAT, right? You're hitting all your metrics, but you're not solving the root cause. There's a lot of noise going on. It means you're still in the reactive mode, but you're very polite about it. And that's short-lived.
So, Joe, I know you saw some questions come in that you wanted to answer. Feel free to, do so as they're coming in.
Right. So, to Steve's point, is it depends on what those metrics are, right? You can have all green metrics, doesn't mean you're measuring the right thing to get you the information you want. And that's really to the point of what we're talking about. And then when we talk about multiple labor metrics, right? Multiple labor metrics has to take, what you're talking about is labor load or gross margins. Basically, if I take my revenue minus my labor minus my COGS, right, and divide that back, I should have a percentage that's between 60 and 70%. That means I'm healthy. If I'm at 70 and I can bear 65, maybe I can add some cost to it. But the way you're going to measure labor, and you can do this, is really predicting what is your reactive supports on average per role, and then you can start forecasting per group of endpoints when you're going to get labor. If I know what cost me to support 100 endpoints, then when I add a 500 endpoint client, I know where I should be able to put that labor, or if I have capacity. It's all about always use real dollars for prediction, right? Because at the end of the day, cash is what the profit is.
Yeah. And, I've kind of seen, right, that some MSPs, right, they don't track agreement health at the service level, right? So the service manager doesn't have visibility into those numbers, right? And so they're not really connecting the labor hours to specific clients. And then they wonder, right, why their margins shrink even when revenue does go up, right? So that's something that I've noticed as well.
Yes. I've worked with some high performing MSPs. When I say high performing, we're talking about 30% net profit, right? That's a wonderful place to be. But with transparency and looking at the right metrics, you won't have like a $10,000 a month client costing you money because we're not paying attention to repetitive issues, or the cost to serve was higher than the agreement value, because we're not looking at it holistically. People keep looking at that top line revenue. It does not mean it's profitable. Some cases that have cost you $11,000 to do a $10,000 account, right? It doesn't make sense. People are afraid to lose bad revenue or to do the things they need to fix it. Oh, the client won't buy it. If the client's not going to pay for it, that you're just paying then for them to have bad IT.
Yeah. This system really is forcing us, right, to kind of stop and think about these isolated KPIs, right? And start thinking about the whole service delivery ecosystem, right? And that's what it is. It's an ecosystem, right? It feeds everything, right? So let's kind of talk about what this actually looks like in practice, if you don't mind, Joe. It's not just about adding more data. It's again connecting the data in the right way, right? So I guess, Joe, from what you've seen and like how you operate, right? What should a modern service delivery dashboard really include?
So what it needs to do is create an overlay of metrics, right? And those become the key performance indicators. You got, and I say this 1,000 times, you have to think of service like a diamond, right? There's not one measurement that's going to tell you the overall value. I mean, you have cut, clarity, carat, but most important, does the consumer like it, right? I've taken my wife shopping for diamonds before, and the guy puts it up. Oh, this is a S1 LG 51729, whatever the diamond things are, and my wife would be like, I don't like it. So the value that the consumer has or your client is just as important as those metrics. It can hit all the key things to be a high value diamond. If it doesn't like it, has no value. So how do we put that into practice? Well, I mean, you have to have your SLA compliance plus your CSAT plus client sentiment, which I really want to deep dive into that. I don't know if we're doing it today, but it's critical. Plus your reopen rate. That's your actual quality, right? That's the actual service delivery quality. But your ticket count, right? How many tickets plus the escalation rate and how long it takes to escalate, your time to escalate, is your process maturity, right? Are you getting the things done, and are your tickets moving through your system at the right pace to deliver the right quality? Then you have your resource cost and the labor hours and the ticket load is going to be your profitability. Do you have the lowest cost resource working on the type of tickets that are coming in? If you have a tier 3 doing password reset, you're losing money.
Right.
And then you have to layer on top of that the actual tech performance. Are they being closed the right way? Is your first touch resolution happening? Is the same user submitting the same tickets repeatedly? That's a dead sign that there's some automation or process gaps.
I like everything that you just said, Joe, but let's make it real for the people on this today. Can you help maybe share an example where connecting these dots kind of helps either you or someone you know catch something early?
I heard from a friend of a friend. No, I can give it to you straight up on my experience. Um, uh, you know, I mean, I have to say MSP bots, but working with MSP bots on tracking client sentiment, right? That's something that they offer. What that is it checks all the inbound, outbound messages coming to and from a ticket and says, was this a positive experience? Was this a negative experience? Was this a neutral experience? And your goal is obviously have a lot of positive experience, but in normal ticket life, there's a lot of neutrals. So when you start tracking client sentiment, not CSAT, client sentiment is leading, CSAT lagging.
Yeah.
We see the tone, some of the tone of a client kind of dropping. But what was usually a high client sentiment client, because we write back to the ticket so we know what the end result is, start getting into more neutrals and then start getting into some negatives. That's a trigger, right, to go talk to the client. It's a trigger that we need to interact with them. And the account manager had to find out what was going on, and we found out that there was a misalignment between expectation of turnaround time and what we were actually doing. So we were meeting the SLA, but we weren't meeting their expectations, and we noticed that only in the client sentiment. The CSAT would just had a lower rate of return. So while instead of getting 15 positives, we got 5. It's still positive. The CSAT still looked good from a percentage, but it was dropping, and we only saw that in client sentiment.
And that's the power of AI and the nature of, what's to come, right? We can track and see things, right, that we could easily miss with those surface level metrics, right? And that's why it's very important, right, to kind of keep up with, what's going on, what's going out there. And, I can tell you that when we did launch that sentiment analysis app, the feedback was astronomically good. And again, this webinar isn't, a sales pitch or anything, but just to your point, we saw a gap. We actively tried to fix it, and it's made positive impacts for, our client base already. So, even if you're a prospect, and you want to see it in action, you can, or if you're a current customer not using it, I suggest, you do so, because it is, again, it's surfacing issues before it becomes an issue, right? So it's very proactive, right? And that's the power of upstream data, right? You cannot wait for your CSAT to drop. You have to act before that actually happens, right? Again, indicators. And I know we had some questions popping in. I want
Oh
to
yeah.
see if you want to answer any of those before we
Um,
get going.
we usually Mr. Bank. Yes, Eddie, you can set those up, and you can restrict by 80 login. But I want to go back to what Bo was saying. Is it a bad idea to allow everyone to see each other's stats? In my experience, and again, I'm the kind of person that hates annual performance reviews. I'm the kind of person that wants to do just employee health check-ins. People get more money when they add more value, right? Just because you were sitting in a seat for a year doing the same thing and you didn't add more value, you then lost value because technology has changed. But when you get certification, when you help with a project and you start moving up, that is where you add more value and you get more money. So this goes to the idea of people in their daily huddle should stand up and give their key metrics from yesterday. My average time per ticket was 0.25. My client facing utilization was 80%. And whatever another key metric is that you would use, to me, it was ticket closed. It's not that you have to share, but the team needs to know how the team's doing. So you have a team dashboard and people can say how they contributed. It's not calling people out. It's being able to say, hey, do you need help? Right? Because people, especially engineers, don't ask for help all the time. And it's your job as a leader to make sure you see problems quickly. And if you're not monitoring theirs, you're not looking at everybody's individual dashboard, having that huddle, hey, what's my stuck? What do I need to do today? So I do want to be able to say you should have a team dashboard where everybody's seeing it like a leaderboard, but people should be responsible for saying, was I successful? Yes, I was. Or no, I wasn't, and I need help. You're forcing that. So, well, that's just a school of thought. Again, I'm very old, and I like to have transparency from top to bottom. I want them to see as their team how profitable their clients are, right? So if we have pods, right, or if we have separate teams, different verticals, say, okay, your team has $100,000 of MRR, and you guys are operating at 60%. You're at the low end, but you're still good. The team can say, how do we get to 70%, right? What continuous improvement can I do in my team to get there? Just like the company is doing, hey, here are our rocks. Here's our initiatives for this quarter. right? The team should be doing the exact same thing. The leadership needs to focus on the company. The team needs to be able to focus on their revenue because that's what they can control. They control their cost, they control their productivity, they control the client experience. Transparency, top to bottom.
And here's one that I kind of want you to hit on, right? This is from Daniel. He's asking, so are we saying that KPIs are the metrics that matter and are result oriented? Which, you know, that's not necessarily what I took away from it. How would you answer that one, Joe?
So again, KPI is an indicator where to go ask questions,
Mhm.
right? It is multiple KPIs that overlap that tell the answer. And I mean, there's little things like you have to do employee ESATs, right? Anonymous surveys, employees, and eventually get them to open up. You have to coach them how to prove their business acumen, not just their technical acumen. Then you'll start seeing results. So KPIs matter, right? Because that's the result. But it has to tell you where to look for problems. Because if I get KPIs that work, but my people are at 90%, I didn't achieve my KPI the right way. And I don't know why I always use number 3 for all my little sayings. It's when I make a decision or when I look at a problem, I always say, is it good for the client, right? Is it going to add value to the client? Is it good for the team or team member? Is it going to add value or are they going to feel valued? And is it good for the company? Is it meeting our profit margins? So when we ask those 3 questions on decisions we're going to make, it has to be yes across the board. You must value your team member like you want your team member to value your client. And you have to do all this stuff at a profit margin. So yeah, you have to use finances as a decision maker, not just KPIs.
I have a fun little interactive, maybe it's a quiz. We can call it lightning rounds. We can have people in the chat answer and, but Joe, I want you to, after everybody's kind of done, give your feedback. Okay. So I'm going to give a couple of scenarios, right? And what I want you to tell me, right, is which driver would have helped catch this problem early. Okay.
Okay.
So everybody get your chat hands ready. Let's see, right? Uh, scenario 1, tier 3 is overloaded, but tier 1 is quiet. I'd love to see in the chat what your thoughts are. What is the driver that could have helped catch this problem early?
And I like Alex's statement there.
All right, Joe, what are your thoughts? Well, let's wait. They're still typing. Takes them longer to type than us to talk, right? So timer's on. To Joe's point, if you had some music, it would be dun dun dun.
So do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
I'm going to go more with Tommy and Ricardo because if tier 3 is overloaded, that means you're right. There's a problem at first touch resolution and that time it takes to escalate. Tier 1s aren't asking for help. They're just, again, what I call slinging crap over the fence. We have to look at our operational maturity. If it takes 2 minutes for a ticket to go from triage to level 3, there's a problem.
So would you say that's maybe escalation management, time to escalate? Like what are some things, maybe leading metrics that can help?
It is escalation management and time to escalate, right? Those are things that you should be monitoring and measuring and alerting.
Yep, that makes sense.
Right? Because it has a threshold. This is where you want it to work.
All right, here's another scenario. Let's see. Get your chat hands ready. All right. Let's say that the CSAT is fine, right? But we just had one of our top clients churn.
I just gave an answer to this.
I know. We elaborated more than what we said we were going to elaborate on that one.
I know. I'm a chatty Cathy. All right, we got CSAT, but a client left. Why? Oh, why?
I heard it from Eddie. That's part of it. Yep.
Yeah,
there you go, Ricardo.
He's on it. I hear he's got someone wonderful that he's working with. So it is a mix of client experience and proactive support, right? Maybe the QBRs aren't happening, right? We're not touching base enough and doing business reviews. We have declining engagement. We're not touching them monthly or just having some unique touches so we keep a conversation going. The client sentiment shift, right? We're looking at the client conversations, and more tickets move to neutral, more tickets move to negative. And there's repetitive issues. We're not looking at these same issues coming up either from the client or from the systems, right? If a system has a repetitive issue, it's always creating impact, and we don't put those together, somebody will fix it because this is a free market system. It's not you, it'll be somebody else.
Very, very true, right? A lot of those things make a lot of sense. And I think you're right too about, QBRs, technical business reviews, whatever you call them, right? If you're not doing those, right, you should be. Like, that's face-to-face time, right? Sentiment is catching things that, again, technicians might not be seeing, right? When they're closing tickets. And all of these things combined together, right, will prevent something like this happen, especially to your top clients, right? And last scenario before we give you some homework, because again, Joe likes to give homework not as a bad thing, but to really kind of help move the needle, right? We're not here to just talk, to you, with you. We're actually here to help, right? So Joe has some cool things for you to do to take away so that next time we meet, right, we can have, more in-depth conversations, right? So scenario 3, there is a high ticket close rate, but your techs are miserable and burning out. Ooh, I haven't seen anything pop up yet. Have you, Joe?
No, but this is
Here we
one of
go.
my favorite things. Because
Yep.
it is just important to take care of your team as it is your client. I'll say it a million times.
Yep.
All right, and I see
I've
the
seen
answer.
I've seen a lot of the answers that pulled together is the right one. So go ahead, Joe.
So we're talking about operational efficiency, right? Your maturity levels and team health. The lack of process, like a good process, especially. If you're not tracking utilization, right? If you're not tracking the overtime and calendar adherence, if you're not tracking the breaks and burnout signals, you're going to lose people. And if you lose people, you're going to lose clients. High turnover is an indicator of an unstable company. Clients know this.
Yep. And, I think the participation was great, right? And again, we want to recap a couple of things. Metrics are great, but they don't tell the whole story, right? So these surface level metrics just aren't enough, right? The 7 drivers that we mentioned kind of help give you that full picture. And you need to connect your data. Don't just collect it and look at it in silos, right? And that's where, Joe, your homework, right? And action items. I call it homework, but it's really action items, right? It's positive. Tell us what we should be doing to really show movement and kind of how they can do these things so that they can make a proactive plan.
All right. So first things first, audit your current dashboards, right? Are you looking at leading or lagging? I generally have a live dashboard with leading indicators and a management dashboard with lagging indicators. So I want to see what's happening now. Like, do I have too many negative client sentiments, right? I have my SLAs. It is one's a 7 minute to breach, one's a 15 minute to breach, and one's 30. Depends on where you are. So you watch that, and I give the heads up before the breach, right? I want everything to be ahead of a problem. And then map your current metrics, what you're measuring, to the 7 drivers, right? You're going to have this, go map it. And then identify where you have gaps. I'm not even connecting to this one, or this one has 5 going to 1. Is that necessary? Where are your blind spots? What's your biggest risk? And then sit down and make a plan. Address one at a time. When I say address it, you just go through an IDS session if you're EOS, or just sit down. You have to do this outside of service. You need to do it in a meeting. And how are we going to fix it? How are we going to document it? How are we going to train on it? How are we going to adopt it? Roll it out. Next one. Don't do it all at one time. One thing at a time, because the rate of change is also important.
I agree. Again, everybody ask your questions in the chat, right? Because we do want to answer those. Since you made the time for us, we'll make the time for you. And, high level, right? What MSP bots, really is like the center of your service delivery operations, right? With AI-driven automations and insights. But again, this isn't necessarily a sales pitch. It's really, this is what Joe uses, right, on a day-to-day basis. So, Joe, maybe just a quick sentence about kind of how MSP bots help support the efforts that we just talked about today.
So making data actionable to always stay ahead of issues. Managers should manage to exceptions, and teams should manage to goals. And that's what MSP Bots does. It allows you to set that one widget and look at it 15 different ways. It allows you to automate, and this is business process automation, the threat level to get notified and only get notifications of things that are within your realm of control. MSP Bots gives you a lot of business intelligence and allows for a lot of automation triggers. And my favorite part about it is the layering of so many integrations, right? Because again, the diamond, and I know you said a sentence or two, but you have to look at your ConnectWise, you have to look at your RMM, you have to look at your security tools, you have to look at your backup. I mean, you'll constantly have to look at everything, right? And you need to simplify it down, and that's what MSP Bots does. That is intelligent service delivery. I do want to look at Jerry's question real quick, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Is there anything specific from a potential solution or method shared regarding how to avoid some of the obvious items shared?
Okay.
That's a mouthful, right? And that's a long conversation, but let me give some short notes because I know other people said it, right? The standards for service delivery are called ITIL. ConnectWise, Kaseya, all those tools are ITIL compliant. The more you know how to standardize service, the more aligned your service will be to prevent these things. Measure what matters.
Measure what matters. I like that.
Right? But, and again, here's the big but. Tools and processes are not a barrier to entry for your competitors. Anybody can buy these tools. Anybody can get ITIL 4 certified. Anybody can say, I'm going to go to True Methods. I'm going to have proactive, right? And then I'm going to have reactive on that projects and tools and automation or centralized services. Anybody can buy this. But how you prevent these problems is by embedding the culture that you wanted at the start of it. What experience did you give your clients as an owner or as a leader that added the value right? And what experience are you giving to your team that adds that same value by taking that core value and making it actionable and embedded it into your processes, embedded into your job descriptions, embedded into the way we put time entries in, right? You have to think about your service level agreement becoming an experience level agreement. You take these soft skills that are measurable and the hard numbers that are results, and you have to be able to overlay them.
Can you say that one more time, Joe? Because this is the first time I'm hearing it, and I think my mind just exploded with goodness. And I loved everything that you just said. That I wanted to sink in a little bit for myself too, and maybe the others think that as well.
Oh yeah, I can get into AI all day long, but yeah, it is on topic. I do want to talk about that. You can scan it or hit me up. I have a whole AI as a service company. But let me get back to it. And this is something I've been promoting for decades. I read it once and it just hit me in my core. Is SLA are the hard metrics of what I'm doing, right? Service level agreements. But XLA, experience level agreement, are take the value aspect of what I'm doing. And when you overlap them, like we're talking, right? Those are parts of the 7 drivers. Is what we're saying is what's my experience and what's my result, and merging that into an experience level agreement. That's when people stick. That's when customers stick, and that's when profit happens. When they understand the business side, saying, I'm not fixing an email issue, I'm helping this client send out a proposal so they can get an offer signed, right? Or they can get a sale, or they're sending out payroll. When I have my techs or the people that are touching the clients understand what they do and how it helps them help their clients, and then the clients understand that, that's value. That's where you're no longer trying to sell them in your QBR. You're just using the relationship to say, this is what you need. I was in a couple of meetings today, and I was saying, okay, if this is what you need, if you don't get it from me, here are some alternative companies you can get it from. Because it's not about them coming to me, it's about them getting help, right? That's the value I like to add to people that work with me. And that's just, if they don't, at least I know I helped.
You do help. And that's blatantly obvious, right? That you care, and that's appreciated, right?
I know my
And
camera's over there, but my monitor's over there.
um, it's fine. I saw a couple more questions come in. Did you want to answer some of those as well?
Um, is there? I didn't see more questions. Were they?
Oh, okay. I saw some things pop up while I was trying to. I know
Yeah.
some people may or may not have their phones, right? So I'm
Nope.
actually.
They were complimenting you.
Oh, good. Yes, Joe deserves all the compliments. So what's next? We have a session 2. Um, So the session 2 is going to be August 6th, same time, right? You can use that QR code up there to register if you liked what you saw. It's a continuation of this conversation to kind of dive a little bit deeper. And I also put the link in the chat. We also, will offer, a free personalized demo, so similar to how we kind of helped Joe and his business, we can give you a personalized demo to show you how we can help yours. Also, if you have ConnectWise, have used, are using, or a customer and got off a breakage, right? We have a why MSP bots with ConnectWise webinar with Joe, who, is a ConnectWise consulting expert who uses MSP bots. And then we do have an expert that's going to be able to ask or answer any technical questions about breakage, our capabilities, technical sets, and it'll be an interactive session, very similar to what we're doing today, right? And also be able to give some, live feedback of like, oh, this is, what we do, how we do it, right? So I'm putting that in the chat today, and that's happening, I want to say next week, right? July 30th. So
Yep.
again, if you have ConnectWise, if you have, their free version of Brightgauge or, pay for it, we've seen a lot of people come over even with that, because there is a lot of, automations, AI, innovations that we've done, right? So we're just going to showcase that. And again, it's a live Q&A session. So if you have questions, want to see things in action, we will have an expert who used to actually work at Breakage be able to kind of showcase those differences. So I just put that into the chat as well. And then, I don't know if you want to talk, Joe, about your honeycomb hideout, but that is an interesting name, and I like the name a lot.
So that's what I call my website. The High Point Group is a management company for 3 other companies. So we have the Process Hive, which is our MSP coaching and consulting company. We have my Agent Hive, which is an AI gateway, AI as a service company, and the Platform Hive, which we do self-service AI applications. You want AI, you want ticket dispatch for ConnectWise. Click, here's your integration. If you want integration with voice integration with WhatsApp and be able to call people, click, here's your integration. So we have consumer-based AI applications, and we have business side, specifically for MSP. All these are designed around MSPs. We also do social media marketing and PEO services for MSPs.
Okay, that's great. So again, everyone, we want to say thank you, obviously, for joining us today. I am going to be sending out, well, there's an email that'll be coming to you directly. We'll be sending out an email to invite you to session 2. And also I'll have the playbook emailed to you. Again, the playbook is it's very long. It's 35 pages, but it's in depth. So everything that we're talking about, we're kind of breaking the surface. The playbook that you get for joining the session today breaks it down even more, and has more scenarios, more metrics to look at, things of that nature. So I'll be sending that out following this email, probably tomorrow. So you can look forward to that. And if you have any additional questions, concerns, you can reach out to either me or Joe. And if not, we really hope to see you in session 2, where we'll dive more in and continue the conversation. So thank you, everybody, for joining, and I hope you all have a great day.
Hey, Alex, just go to my website and connect, and I can talk to you about that.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Rachel.